Hello and a warm welcome back to the Auction Insiders. I'm Louise Stanway, Director of Town and Country Property Auctions for Cheshire, Staffordshire, Shropshire and Manchester. And today I want to take a step back and have a really honest conversation with you about the auction market. So whether you're selling a property, looking to buy or auction for the first time, or you're an experienced investor, this episode is about helping you understand where we've been, where we're heading, and most importantly, how you can position yourself to make the most out of 2026. So we're going to look back at what 2025 has actually been like on the ground, just to see whether or not there's any lessons that can be learned. Then I'll share with you what we're predicting, I would say, for 2026. And then finally, I'll talk through some practical strategies that buyers and investors can use to stay ahead. So let's start with 2025 because it has been an interesting one for us all. And if I had to kind of sum up 2025 in one phrase, I would say that it's completely been a year of adjustment. And what I mean by that is that we had quite high expectations from vendors on pricing, which didn't really align with where the market was probably sitting. And it was a massive learning curve for us all because it was imagining those expectations and then actually trying to establish where that market was. And it was really very much, I would say, dominated by buyers, and it felt more like a buyer's market than it did for our vendors. So it was about an adjustment, about bringing those deals together and aligning that pricing for everybody. So that was definitely how we saw 2025. And at the start of the year, like I say, we're still waiting for a lot of sellers that are still hoping for prices that just weren't quite in line with that market, which is completely understandable because property prices had been strong for such a long time. But auctions just have a funny way of cutting through all of that, which is where we kind of come in when we can kind of guide people once we get that feedback from the market. But what we saw very clearly in 2025 was that buyers didn't disappear. They were still there. What it felt like is that they were just being a little bit more cautious. And well-priced properties did really well. Overpriced ones just simply didn't. And auctions make that very obvious very quickly. One thing that stood out last year was just how dominant cash buyers and investors were in a really strong position if you are lucky enough to be a cash investor. We found that those particular buyers were decisive, they knew their numbers and they just weren't afraid to walk away if something didn't stack up, which is why, again, I'm referring to that kind of buyer's market for us, because they could pretty much dictate really where that market was sitting for a deal, because of those numbers that were stacking up after they'd done some careful due diligence. And honestly, the most successful sellers for us in 2025 were the ones who listened to the market rather than fighting it, because you just have to kind of listen to what's kind of going on. They were priced sensibly, it created that competition, and they often ended up with better results than if they tried to hold out. And we also saw more people choosing auctions as a first option and not a last resort. So it meant that they hadn't already been on the market, because of course a lot of our buyers do their due diligence. They can see previous sales, how many times it's been on the market, what it was on for, how much they've come down, and from that they can kind of make their own minds up as to then what they can then offer, and they'll usually try and lowball because they think then at that point you will be a seriously motivated seller. So we're certainly not a second thought. Auctions are a fantastic route for selling a property if you want that quick sale, you want the certainty and the security. But come to us first, check us out first, get a good valuation and see whether or not it's actually, once you take all of the information on whether or not it's actually a better method of route of sale for you. So if 2025 has taught us anything, I would say is that auctions work brilliantly, but when pricing and expectations are realistic, which brings us nicely, I think, into what we can be expecting from 2026. And I'm often asked whether auctions are going to slow down. And honestly, from the start of this year, the answer is no. It's been a brilliant start to the year. We've seen a lot of momentum, a lot of interest, a lot of competition. And again, it's all about pricing right. We price right, we sell. So if anything, I would suggest at this moment in time, auctions are becoming more important in terms of a way of being able to sell property, and for those buyers looking as well to get those really good deals. In 2026, I think we'll see sellers split into two clear groups. There'll be the sellers who understand the market and price accordingly, and then will ultimately sell. And that's really where we come in, because it'll be for us to guide our vendors to that group, really, so that we aren't just listing properties, we're selling them. And there will be the other group of sellers who will try to push the market higher and ultimately will struggle. So we're definitely keen to making sure that we're engaging with our vendors, listening to the price points of the market, just so that we are trying to sell as much as we can for our vendors this year. So for sellers, auctions in 2026 will reward strategy over optimism for sure. So the days of kind of let's try and see, which we hear all the time, are pretty much gone. But again, we don't want to just try and see. We want to be able to sell for you. So it's about listening to our guidance and letting us advise you really with our experience as to where you'll need to sit for auctions. But again, it can be such a powerful, easy way of selling a house, just simply for that certainty and security that you get. From a buyer's point of view, 2026 is actually shaping up to be a really interesting year. There's going to be lots of choice, it seems. There's going to be lots of opportunity, which we're already seeing. But the best deals will still attract competition. So it's just being mindful, really, that if you are a buyer, make sure that you're in that pool of being prepared and ready for that quick deal, because there is competition out there. We're also seeing buyers becoming less obsessed with prime locations and more focused on value, yield, and long-term fundamentals. And that's why regional and secondary locations are becoming increasingly popular, and auctions are where many of those opportunities show up first. Obviously, we cover nationally, we advertise on a national platform with Rightmove, with Zoopla on the market, and so buyers are finding us, in all of the locations. So it's not just primarily focusing on the northwest or down in London or specific areas. And although we have our territory, we can offer a national kind of coverage for any buyers or any sellers. So just bear that in mind. Now, if you're buying or investing at auction, this is where you really want to pay attention. The buyers who do well at auction, then they're not just lucky, it's because they're prepared. So I know it sounds really obvious, but the first thing to do is just do your homework early. If you're waiting until the auction week to read the legal pack or speak to a solicitor, you're kind of already on the back foot. The strongest buyers in 2025 were the ones, and the ones that are then going to succeed this year, I think, are the ones that have been are prepared well in advance. Another one is emotion. Auctions can be very exciting, but you have to stay disciplined, and before you bid you should know your numbers inside out. So make sure that when you're doing your due diligence that you are looking at what's your maximum price, what will the refurb costs be, what's the end value, what's the end return, like rental return if it is that you're doing a buy to let, because if the numbers don't work before you bid, they're not going to magically work afterwards. So just make sure that you're staying disciplined, but do your due diligence, making sure you get those figures before you come to auction. And one thing I'd say is don't overlook properties that need work. Some of the best auction opportunities are homes that simply aren't perfect, because that's where value can be added. So certainly look out for any refurb projects if it is that you want to gain like a quick turnaround investment. And finally, be ready to move quickly. Like I said before, those that are better prepared, they've done the due diligence, read through the legal pack, sought any advice that they want to beforehand. And when I'm going to say beforehand, you probably, 2 or 3 weeks before the auction, make sure you're making inquiries with the auction house as well, and particularly with us, because we actually tend to sell most of our properties pre-auction. And it's with those that are looking at the market, know what they want, know their numbers, come to us with that deal stacked up. And if it's agreed by the vendor, that deal's secured and done prior to the auction. So definitely be ready to move quickly. In 2026, we're expecting more pre-auction offers and more sellers willing to accept a good, clean deal. So if you are serious, being organised and decisive can make all the difference. Pick up that phone, speak to the member of a team, let us know your criteria or your requirements, because we can always let you know of any properties that then meet your requirements, really, to let you know what's coming on the market with us, for you to be able to prepare early and get that information together. So to wrap things up, I'd say 2025 was about correction and realism. It needed to happen. 2026 is about opportunity for those who are prepared. So if you're selling, price with the market and use the auction to your advantage. If you're buying, stay disciplined, stay prepared, and focus on numbers. Auctions aren't about taking risks. They're about making informed decisions in a transparent environment. Thank you so much for listening to the Auction Insiders. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, and as always, feel free to get in touch if there's a topic that you'd like us to cover. I'm Louise Stanway, and I'll speak to you soon.